Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeena Chetia. I'm the founder director of ThinkCloud Solutions. I've been a grateful speaker last year. I also have another initiative called Women Tech Heroes, which we're trying to bring women into technology. So today's topic is integration with Salesforce Platform Simplified. So as the topic says, we're going to cover integration, but in a very simplified format. So although integration is a very vast topic, but we'll try to simplify it. So how many of you all are here who are new to integration? Good. So, and the rest who all have already done integration, you might find it a little simple, or if there's anything that you want to add, please do share. Okay, now what is integration? So integration is the act of bringing together smaller components into a single system that function as one. So when you look into a big enterprise application, or there are many things that one application may only be capable of. So one might be your Salesforce, which we started off as a CRM. But then you might require a different application for managing your accounting or managing your code management. You would require different applications. Now, however, you would like information from different applications coming together into one. So that's the process of integration. So there are different disparate applications which are there, and they have been there to do a specific set of work. Now we cannot expect one application which will do everything. So you will have to work with multiple applications, and the end result of the process is your integration. Now what are the different possible integration targets that are there? So first is the level of security. So when we are talking about two different applications, you have to understand that there are different security levels that comes into when there are two applications. So you have to ensure that there is a security that happens. How does the security happen? You would have your whitelisting IPs which are there. You have to go through the authentication mechanism. Then comes your logic-based integration. So, for example, Salesforce, you're capturing your customer information, you're capturing your opportunity information. However, for order tracking, you might be order generation is a different application. So what I want to do is that as soon as I create or I say that this opportunity is now closed, now it's going into your order phase, wherein I want a different application to actually generate the order for me. What you're doing here you are doing the business logic of an application-based integration. Then you also have the UI-based integration. Now when we talk about UI-based integration, I would like to have a UI of a different application sitting in my own application, just like a Facebook app. Okay? You are in your Salesforce and you want to actually have your Facebook app into your Salesforce. You want to go and post from your Facebook. However, you do not want to build the entire UI into your own application. That's what we call the UI integration. Then comes your data integration. Two different applications. You have accounts in Salesforce. You might have some other application which is generating orders. But both the information are talking about the same person or the same account. How do we get both the data into sync? That's your data integration. Now let's try to understand. We have talked about the 4 integration targets. Now let's try to understand what are the different things that we need to take into consideration when it's an integration. Key points to consider for designs. I'm trying to integrate 2 different applications. Now I need to understand, is there any tools which are actually available that I can reuse? Do I have any ETL tool that I can reuse when I'm trying to think through an integration? What are the proxies and firewall? I might be talking about a cloud-based application like Salesforce, and then will be a ground application or an on-premise application. Now how do I take care about the proxies and firewalls? Then, is there a need of a middleware? I hope you all are aware of a middleware. So middleware is an application or a tool through which you can integrate to. So it gives you the ETL, it gives you the service bus, it gives you the data cleansing, it gives you the process management. So these are what are the characteristics of it. Now, when I talk about integration architecture, what are the 3 different integration architectures? One is called point-to-point. When I'm trying to talk with one application to another, it might happen that you've got CRM, you've got billing, you've got HR management. In this architecture, each of them talks to each other. That's your point-to-point. Next is a hub and spoke. In hub and spoke, you have a central application which is your medium of communication to all the other applications. So one central hub and all are connected to that hub. I want to talk to some other application, I will send a message to the hub. Hub is going to translate and transform this to other application. Now there is a drawback in here is that if there is a problem with the hub, your communication channel closes. Next is our enterprise service bus, which is a one recommended for your enterprise integration. So here you are actually using a bus. I think we talked about the comedy in the previous session, right? So we talked about the message bus. So basically what you're doing here is that you pass on the message. Your enterprise service bus takes care of your transformation, it takes care of your queuing, it takes care of moving the data into your various other applications. So these are the three different integration architecture. Now integration direction. Now when we are trying to design the entire process, we have to understand what is the direction. Is it an inbound or is it an outbound? Inbound, it can be also two-way where we are talking to each other. So here I have taken like on-premise application is talking to Salesforce, that's your inbound integration. Your Salesforce is talking to an on-premise is what you call an outbound integration direction. Now each of this integration direction or has to follow one or the other pattern. So these are the two patterns. Request and response pattern where I'm sending a request and I'm expecting a response at the same time. So that's your request and response. Now the another pattern is your callback pattern where I send the request to my server acknowledges me back that I received the request, however, it's not actually processing your request and giving back to the response. Once it gives you back the response, then is where your response is been taken care of by the application who had called it, and it acknowledges back that response has been received. So this is more of a synchronous and this is an asynchronous way of calling. Now, what are the integration process? As we talked about, it can be synchronous, where you are expecting the response at the same time. It can be asynchronous or it can be a batch, wherein you are not sending a single information, but you are sending a batch of data to the other system. Now, that's your response time. What are the other things that you need to take care of? How will this whole integration be triggered? Do you want it to be triggered in an automated way? Do you want it to be triggered in a scheduled way, or do you want it to be triggered in an ad hoc way? Automated way is, I do this, then this should happen immediately. I create an opportunity, immediately my order should get generated. That's your automated. Scheduled. I want an IT process to be run, which is going to sync my account data from this system to the other system. This is your schedule. Ad hoc. Integration should happen with a press of a button. So this is your ad hoc. So you are deciding where you want the integration. Next comes how you want the granularity in the process. Transaction management comes into picture here. Like, what should happen? If one message fails, or for example, order gets generated, now this system talks to some other system to get back more details about other information. In that case, if one fails, we want to process the other one first. At what point your commit should be, what would be your rollbacks, and what is your transaction management. Then comes your orchestration, which is actually been taken care of by your middleware when it comes to the orchestration, where it's more about how you want your process, you want your retry attempts to be taken care of. The entire whole framework is what your orchestration. If you want to do this, then you have to use a middleware to do all this. Okay, so we talked about, I have to trigger question again. Now we talked about the integration architecture, we talked about the process, which is your synchronous, asynchronous, and we talked about the automated way, how you want to do it. Okay. Now let's assume JDF is using Salesforce. Okay. The JDF is using Salesforce, and we have seen that JDF had you did all your registration through Eventbrite, and we as speakers submitted all our paper through Paperwhite. Okay? The question here is, JDF would like to get notified once in a while on how users have shown interest for the speakers. So they want to get notified. So the data regarding the users who have created their login and saved the data, but have not submitted. They want to capture the information of the users who created the login, but they have not saved the data. Now, what kind of integration would that be? So, for example, it is using the Salesforce. Would it be an inbound or an outbound? Inbound. Right. Now, JDF would like to notify Eventbrite as soon as new slots are open for registration. So, what kind of integration will that be? Which layer? Yes, application layer, because there is a business logic involved in it. Now, what you want to do is that Eventbrite, as soon as you have filled in your application, they would like to validate the address that you have put in is correct or not. Which time-based integration process should you follow? Synchronous. Because when you are filling in the information at that time, they would like to validate your address. Only when your address is validated, you will be allowed to save the registration. So that's your synchronous. Now, what would you use? Which architecture would you use here? Why do you invest in enterprise? You're just talking about two applications. So, and if you talk about enterprise, you also have to understand not everywhere, that might be the best solution, but that's the best solution for an enterprise. You put multiple applications in picture, but here, I'm just talking about two, right? And I know the purpose, I know the requirement is just for me to get me the registration information and the speaker information. So why do I invest in getting a service bus, right? So in that case, I can go for one. Now, what are the components? So we'll talk about the integration architecture for the Salesforce platform now. Okay. Now, what are the components of a good integration architecture? Now, as an architect, we want to build the best possible integration architecture. For that, we also have to see which pattern to be used. Now, it might happen that not all solution fits, one solution might not fit all. So before going into saying that this is my correct solution, I have to understand what my requirement is. As we talked about, right, we said enterprise service bus or the enterprise architecture. Now, I know my requirement is this. I'm not going to go beyond this. So why do I go and invest in getting an ESB? So we have to understand the roadmap. We have to understand the business requirement. We have to understand the capability of the tools that we are using before actually coming to a solution that this is going to fit. Okay. Then it can be a support of both mix of real-time and batch. Okay. Now, it might not happen that everything has to be at real-time. Okay. Now, if you do real-time, especially for a Salesforce which is in a multi-tenant architecture, there are a lot of governor limits that come into the picture. So not all can be possible at real-time, but if you're looking at the overall output of the process, a batch might also serve it. So it can be a combination of both real-time and a batch. And you should be also determining this based on your business service level agreements. Now in some cases, you might want a turnaround time within say few minutes or within few seconds. Then which kind of process should I go for? So all these three things have to be kept into mind when I'm talking about the integration architecture. And this is how a typical integration architecture looks like. For example, you have Salesforce, you have a firewall, you have a middleware, and another firewall, and then you have a service bus, and then you have various other applications. Now we'll look into few use cases. Let's take into consideration cloud to ground. Now what is cloud to ground? Anyone? That means Salesforce is sending information. Salesforce is the cloud, ground is your on-premise. So Salesforce is talking to your on-premise. Yes, it's an outbound integration that we are talking about. Now, when we talk about an on-premise application, the security is the main thing, right? So there will be have to take care of your what you call a DMZ or a demilitarized zone. So that means you only have one zone or one particular proxy available through which you would communicate. Otherwise, it's a very risky affair of actually communicating cloud to ground. Because cloud is available on your net, right? So you have to take care of YPs, IPs, two-way SSL. These are the ones that you would take care when you're integrating with the ground application. Then we already talked about the ESP or a message queue that you would have to use. Now after you cross your ESP, you might not want to give access to your entire application. You might also see that I might put in an SOA layer in between where I'm only exposing particular services only to be accessed. So you might see that there might be an SOA layer also. And then you might also think about having an on-premise database wherein I have a read-only access from the cloud to the data that is there on the application. Next comes your ground to cloud. Now in ground to cloud is your which inbound, right? It's your inbound application. Now you can use an ESB in here if required. If not, you can go for point-to-point depending upon what your requirement is. Now you might also use an ETL tool here because you know why we might require an ETL tool here. I think I don't know whether they are here, some of them have come during the circle of success for this. Now Salesforce has got limitations of moving in and the calling of APIs, right? So, and the bulk process of moving the data. So you might consider an ETL tool which would allow you to actually send data in batches, which would take care of your transformation, which would take care of your retries, which would take care of all other complications that comes with handling a large data into Salesforce. And then you might think of having a replicated copy of your cloud data as a data retrieval strategy for your versions. So you might want to retrieve the data to a previous version where this can be put as one of your options for design. Now cloud to cloud, okay? Now cloud to cloud, Salesforce to Salesforce, right? Two different Salesforce environments. You've got Salesforce to Salesforce REST. Now, if two cloud to cloud applications, we can also think about point to point. However, there are other things that is your iPaaS, which is your integration as a service, your MuleSoft, Dell Boomi, Zapier. How many of you know about Zaps and Zapier? So they have got this different Skype to Salesforce, Dropbox to Salesforce. They have got these tools already readily available. So we might go and leverage them rather than building our own. Okay. Now, what are the different integration mechanisms that are available in Salesforce? One is the APIs. We have got APIs, we have got built-in declarative tools which are available, point and click, which you can do, and different tools and toolkits. Now, this is how the entire architecture looks like for your Salesforce, what is available. So, you have got bulk API, REST API, you can make callouts, outbound message. Now, we're going to cover each of these. Now, what are the different kinds of Salesforce APIs that are available? How many of you all know SOAP? Great. So, basically SOAP API, so do you know the WSDLs? Yes? So, Enterprise Partner WSDLs. Okay. Now, what it allows you to access Salesforce data and business logic. It also allows you to update multiple records. Now, this you can use as a general integration. Then you have got the REST, which is basically, it's very easy to integrate. You can do it over HTTP. Chatter REST API, which is for your chatter records and it's based on REST. Then you have bulk API. So bulk API is specifically designed to handle large data volume. Streaming API, I think we talked about, even the last session we talked about Commenty, Works Protocol. So the streaming API uses those to basically push notifications to external systems. Metadata API. Have anybody worked on any metadata? Have worked on metadata API? Okay. So you know that through metadata API you actually get access to Salesforce metadata. So the custom object, the validation rules, the workflows, you get access to those APIs. And then, in case none of these fits in, you can write your own codes using Apex. And then we also have got the tooling API. So tooling API gives you like a fine-grained access to your of metadata, like your working classes of Apex. Now if you want to get access to the working classes of Apex, or you want to generate code automatically, you want to build a tool which actually goes and generates your test classes automatically, you might want to use it. If you're not building as part of Salesforce, but you want to build it in some other platform, you might use it. Tooling API metadata is more a fine-grained access to your metadata. For example, working copies of Apex classes and triggers. You cannot do it with metadata. So it uses a metadata API, but now what you want to actually see, you want to retrieve the code. You want to read your Apex class, then you will have to use the tooling API. You cannot use metadata API. For example, you have a class ABC. Okay, you have got two methods into it, and you want to read that code that you have written inside that class. You cannot use metadata. Metadata API will give you only the class name. Sorry? But you cannot find the code inside that. Code, it's your code. Every line of code, you can find it through tooling API. For example, I might build a tool which would help me delete dependencies. Okay? When you try to delete a field, custom field, it is referenced in Apex trigger, it is referenced in this class. Now what do you have to do? You have to go into the Apex trigger, edit it, comment the piece of code where that field is reduced. Can you actually build a tool to do it? Can you access that piece of code and comment a particular piece of code? You can use the tooling API. Okay. If you want to, if it's a working class of code that you're going and editing and you're seeing, it is a tooling API. Through metadata API, you don't get access to code. You might get access to the class name and method names, also I'm not sure. You get access to your class name, you get access to all your workflows, everything, but you don't get access to the code that is there inside the class. Tooling API you can do. You can go and create into Apex class using the tooling API. You cannot, metadata API, you can go and create a custom object, a custom field, a workflow, a validation rule. But if you want to create an Apex class and you have a piece of code that you want to put in, then you have to use the tooling API. Okay, now which API would you use when? You can use the SOAP. SOAP and REST are almost similar. However, if you are using it on a mobile device, you would rather go for REST and not for SOAP. Chatter is basically if you want to pull in all the chatter feeds and all, you would use that. Bulk API is again for your bulk batch asynchronous processing. Streaming API, I'm not going to talk, I think it's basically the events that we talked about, the platform events uses the streaming API. And if you want to actually say, I talked about the use case of order management. Okay. Now, for example, there is a customer representative who is talking to a customer, and he's saying that I placed an order, now the payment is not being done, or he is having some issues. Then she says, okay sir, go and make the payment. He makes the payment, and she wants to actually see the update that the payment is done without actually refreshing the UI. You can do it with the streaming API. So it is like push notification. Okay. To external applications or to your Salesforce. You must have seen, right? I don't know if you guys were there in the previous demo, the screen gets refreshed. Okay. Now, metadata API, if you want to migrate changes from Sandbox, that's the metadata from one application to another, or your deployment that you talked about, uses your metadata API. Now, custom web service is when you have your own custom service that you want to expose, you would write your own Apex methods for it. Tooling API is, as we already discussed about, so you want to get fine granular access, you want to build a tool which are actually going and making changes to your metadata or to these classes and all, you will go and use it. Now these are some of the out-of-box tools which are available. What we talked about, the APIs and the code. Now these are out-of-box. for integration. Outbound messaging, Apex, email services, Salesforce to Salesforce, Mashup, Post.com Canvas where you want to do the UI based integration, external services. Did anyone of you attend the session on external services? Okay. So external services is something very new which allows you to integrate with external system without writing any code. However, it's an open API specifications that you have to follow, which is your Swagger specifications that you have to follow. So it's more of a point-to-click way of integrating. Now there is one more way, okay, where I have an external system. Again, you are in it. I hope you are not. There's an external application. However, I only want to see the data when I want it, but I do not want to process the data in my application, in my Salesforce platform. So I have, for example, I have, say, my entire payment. So a different application which takes care of my payment. For example, I have a Sage accounting system which takes care of all my payment information. Now I have Salesforce. I want to see the payment details as and when I want it, but I do not want to process that payment data in Salesforce. I just want to view the data that's there in that system. REST API again. So in that case, you have something called as external objects. Big objects is something else. External objects is something else. So basically, external through Lightning Connect, you can connect to your external objects and actually see the data in Salesforce, but the data is not persisted in Salesforce. So this is one of the mechanisms that you can use as a large data volume strategy also, where you are actually not persisting the data and getting it as and when you want to see. So this is a very classic example of like payments being put into an accounting system, but you actually want to see it, or you just want to view for a view purpose. However, with external objects, you can also go and create data, but you're not processing the data in Salesforce. Okay, now these are some of the tools that you can use to access the API. Workbench, Salesforce, API Explorer, Postman. I have this question. Which API would you use if you want to build a custom application that creates updates and views records through mobile devices? Great. Which API would you use if you have more than 1 million records? Send notification to a desktop application? Wow, everybody has become expert, huh? Okay, now we'll quickly cover through these patterns. Okay, these are some of the integration patterns which are there. Remote process invocation, request and reply. This is more of your request and response. I send a request, I get back the response. Fire and forget is asynchronous. You give the response, you give the request and you get back the response. But now batch data synchronization is more about data synchronization between two systems. Remote calling, I am making there's a remote calling from an external application to my Salesforce. And then UI update based on data changes, which is more of a streaming. Now all these patterns, basically you have to use all the concepts that we covered earlier. The integration process, synchronous, asynchronous, then what would trigger this solution. All this would determine which pattern you would use. So we'll do a small exercise and try to figure it out which pattern it is, okay? And what will be the solution. Okay? So we have this scenario where we're tracking leads and opportunities and manages pipeline in Salesforce. Salesforce does not process the order. Orders are created in a remote system. And Salesforce waits to receive the order ID and number back. So to complete the entire process, it waits for the order to come back. Okay, what are we trying to solve here? Problem. When event occurs, how do you initiate the process? Pass the required information, receive the response back, and update the response in Salesforce. Now, what solutions would you propose? No, I'm talking about solution. This is your problem. Will you write a trigger? Will you write? What will you do for this? filling up my details. Now I'm waiting for my order to come in. I'm just waiting for my order to come in. And once the order comes in, only then my process is complete. I don't know, how would you design it? What solution? Would you use a trigger? Would you use a Visualforce page? What would be your optimal solution for it? You know this is a synchronous process, right? Now, do you want it to be automated? Do you want it to be scheduled, or do you want it to be ad hoc? Ad hoc. What solution would you use for ad hoc? Pressing the button. So what is that? You will use a Visualforce page. So this is how you derive to a solution. You will use a Visualforce page because you want an ad hoc. Ad hoc, right? So you will click on the button, you will get the order, and then you will submit. Because you said ad hoc. If you do it through a trigger, it is automated, right? So you want it as and when you require it. So your now visual, you can use your SOAP or REST is your API you will use. But here we are talking about the solution based on our integration concepts or characteristics that we have determined. Asynchronous, synchronous, or you want automated, or what kind of solution do you want? Got it? So then trigger also you can do, or you can also do a batch. But here, what is your optimal solution is your Visualforce to do it. Now which pattern is this? It's a request and reply pattern. Now the same problem, okay? The same problem, only difference, we do not want to receive the order ID immediately. Now what solution would you implement from Salesforce? Would you use any of the APIs, or would you use an out-of-box solution? So what out-of-box solution would you use? Right. So you can use an outbound message to do it. And if you want to get back the order from there, what you will do is that you will send the session ID. So that same session ID, you can get back the order ID and the number, and you update it in Salesforce. Another application. That's why this is an integration, right? So order is getting processed in another application. So this is a pattern which is fire and forget. So in fire and forget pattern, I can use an outbound message also. So you have to use the integration characteristics. You have to understand the characteristics. Then you have to understand which mechanism would I use. Mechanism is your APIs, or you want to use an out-of-box process to do it. And then you can come to your solution to determine that process, what you want to use the solution. Okay, so this brings me to the end of the session. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you everyone.